here with Keegan Garrity, watching the sunrise out by Bud Phelps, WMA. Keegan and I know each other from church. I've harassed him into watching this sunrise. I texted him a couple nights ago, and you're like, all right, I'll do this.
Yeah, definitely wasn't the text I was expecting. But
yeah. I'd be freaked out if anybody is expecting that text. You know, they got the wrong kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it, man. What's your definition metaphorically of darkness and light?
Metaphorically, okay. I don't know if I'll wax too poetic here. But,
go for it, man.
Yeah.
This is the time.
No, I've heard darkness described as the absence of light, and I like that definition. I think light represents clarity. You can see, right? Usually, warmth is accompanied by it too. So I think of when there's light, you can see things. Maybe things are transparent. There's another saying of sunlight can be the best disinfectant. So I think of there's a purity about it. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on light.
I especially like the warmth one right about now. Feels like we're both bundled up, and my hands are starting to kind of freeze at the tips. It feels like getting numb. But
mine under the blankie.
Yeah. I like that you call it a blankie.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, so with your definition of light, what have you ever experienced a sunrise in your own life? And if so, would you mind sharing any small or large?
Yeah. So definitely have. I mean, I like the metaphor of sunrise specifically because it doesn't all come at once, right? It's very slow and sometimes imperceptible. But one of the and usually it's dark right before that, right?
Right.
So there's probably a lot of examples, but maybe one that comes to mind is when I was accused of a crime. So, believe it or not, I've been fingerprinted and mugshot. And,
oh, I believe it.
Yeah. But you shouldn't leave it that easily.
Yeah.
But I think the feeling of injustice is one of the worst feelings I've ever felt, or being accused or misjudged, right? I don't know. You've probably been in that situation, but
yeah,
because it's such a helpless feeling, right? So,
right.
So what happened for me is, so I grew up in the Portland area, and one summer I went to the beach, and was on the way back from the beach. Had some friends in the car, and it's typically one lane, and you know how it's kind of like going to Bear Lake or something. There's one lane for a long time, and then it opens up into 2 lane, and you're like, here's my chance. And the person who was in front of me just went in the passing lane, next to a truck, and did the famous old-fashioned Idaho roadblock where you can't get around either of them. So there was a passing lane on the other side. So I actually just went over the double yellow, past them in the other passing lane because cars weren't coming. And, went on my merry way, and I didn't think much of it. But they ended up calling the police and reporting that I was a drunk driver. And they followed me for 30 miles, almost all the way back home. So I'm probably 15 miles from home, and see the lights behind me. I'm thinking what is this about? So, because I didn't know at the time.
How old are you at this point?
I was a freshman sophomore in college, so 21.
Okay.
22. So, yeah, I'm not some teenager, and I wasn't driving sporadically or anything.
Yeah.
I think they were just mad that I passed them and wanted to seek vengeance for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got pulled over, and the first thing the officer asked me, and it's dark by this time. He's like, "Hey, I saw your car at this party, at some place I'd never heard of." I was like, "No, you didn't. My car wasn't there." He's like, "Yeah, we have reports saying it was." I'm like, "Okay, so why'd you pull me over?" Kind of I was polite, but also questioning.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You got any alcohol in there?" No. It's like, "Mind if I look in there?" It's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can you get out of the car?" It's like, "Okay." So I closed the door behind me, and he asked me and then the friends that were with me if we were drinking or anything, and no. So he said, well, I'm gonna have to write you a reckless driving ticket, for driving sporadically or whatever, and I did tell him about passing someone.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. But anyway, I guess he wrote it and said, like,
I got you,
yeah,
dirtbag.
Like, what? This is the biggest thing you have to worry about right now?
Yeah.
And so anyway, he wrote me this ticket, because I guess you can't write like a traffic offense if you didn't witness it. But since reckless driving is a misdemeanor, you can. So anyway, this is at the tail end of summer, so he writes me this ticket, and then and it's like a $1,200 fine, and Class A misdemeanor or whatever it is, Class C, something that accompanies a fine. And anyway, so I'm a poor college student, so it's like I'm at this point I'm the type of guy that like will drive like 5 miles to the gas station down the road so I can save like 6 cents a gallon on my, like that's the predicament. And so anyway, so I go back to school, and I'm like, so I have to decide if I need to go back to go to my arraignment where I have to plead guilty or not guilty.
Yeah.
And so I go back and plead not guilty, and that's when like they process me and put me through the system and fingerprint me and treat me like a criminal basically. And then I think like there's no way the DA is going to prosecute this case, like it's so thin, and he decides to prosecute and move forward with a trial. So I went out to Oregon again and looked at the spot where I had passed them and discovered it wasn't even in the county. It was in a different county.
Oh, wow.
And so I prepared my defense. I got this court-appointed lawyer that did nothing for me. And anyway, so I'm thinking like there's no way they're gonna do court, but they have a trial, so I have to fly back again. So I've spent like $500 just in plane tickets going back and forth a couple times, and of course anxious about it the whole time. And then and the day before, like he didn't even know if the witnesses were gonna show up, but they did. And like one of them was like the grandma. There was like a older guy, like a middle-aged guy, and his mom was in the car, and I guess she was on like some kind of drug the day of court, and she was like kind of incoherent. Anyway,
so that played out in your favor.
Yeah, so it was like such a joke. And then so like the DA spent like 45 minutes with these guys, and then got to me, and then I explained like clearly what happened, and he's like, okay, you could see the light come on. He's like, okay, that's actually what happened. And then so he ended up dropping the case and said like this didn't even occur in the county, so we've wasted a bunch of time. Like we spent over an hour for like a driving offense that we never normally do. But anyway,
oh my gosh,
so
yeah.
Long story short, I guess my sunrise moment was walking a free man.
Boom, and there it is.
There
it is.
So because justice was served.
Keegan, I like that. That's your story, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think of like sunrise and the all the feelings associated with it.
Yeah.
I just remember feeling so relieved.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Were you like super stressed when you were confronting that? Because
of course.
Had you ever had any run-ins with law enforcement or
maybe, but nothing that severe.
Yeah.
But,
maybe. There's more stories there that it's he still hasn't had the sunrise experience with those yet.
Certainly nothing where I was charged with anything.
Yeah. That's what I tell people too, to try and keep them at ease. Like, look, I didn't go to jail, all right? Yeah. Oh, that's funny, man. Well, I'm glad you survived all of that.
Yeah.
So what's the life lesson that you learned from that? Like, what's the takeaway?
I guess one is I'm glad I didn't try to deal with it with the officer directly. Like, like we do have a justice system, and I thought it, in the end it is good that I got to plead my case, and that there's a system in place for those checks and balances.
Yeah.
definitely had to be proactive. Like, that my court-appointed attorney wasn't going to do that for me.
Do you any favors?
Yeah. I don't know. And then just, it made me think about, like, how it's really easy to judge people or a situation, especially now. You know, you see, like, people get accused of stuff, and instantly, like, their fate has been cast. You know, and it's like, having been in that situation, I have a lot more empathy. And it was a small scale thing, right?
Right, yeah.
I have a lot of empathy for people that, you know, it's like, well, let's just wait till all the facts come out. And we have all the information. And so I think, like, that's turned me into that kind of person of, like, I'm a naturally curious person, and I think that, like, that experience has played into how I look at things.
Oh man. Yeah, being curious really helps deliver more facts without any bias.
Yeah.
It's little bias.
To find out. And yeah, I guess there's always some bias, but it's good to, and the more information you can gather, like, maybe the more light you shine on it, to use a metaphor.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the word wholehearted? What does it mean to you?
I think wholehearted just means to, like, I don't know, not hold back. I think it requires probably some vulnerability and to just go for something. To just go for it.
Okay, who is somebody that represents that to you, and how have they impacted your life?
Yeah, man, I don't know. There's probably lots of people, but the people that actually come to mind are my kids, you know, because they don't, like, they do things without an agenda, you know, and I think that's, like, it's fun to see the world through their eyes, like the way they approach things, you know.
Dude, your kids are awesome, by the way. Half the time, like, I was riding my bike with August last night, and from deep in Dally Field, I hear, "Hey, Chase." I look over, and Rowan's just like, waving, you know, as he's crossing the field. And I remember one time Griff came over to tell Avery that you guys were going to go up to Yellowstone, and he was like, I'm just going to say goodbye to one of my friends real quick. And he was chatting with me about what my plans were and the things he was excited to do in Yellowstone. It's like, man, this kid's real.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing, right, about kids is, like, there's so many people in our life, like, maybe they want to sell us something, or maybe they're, like, being chummy because they hope that, you know, when they send a resume our way, we'll get a second look.
Dude, like, it's those ulterior motives we were talking about.
And it's like, but with kids, it's like there's none of that, and it's really refreshing. Oh,
seriously. Oh, that's true, man. Okay, so how have they impacted your life?
Well, in a lot of ways, because I heard someone say, like, that kids are a good mirror to your imperfections. And it's like, man, that's so true. 'Cause, like, they'll say stuff and, like, where did you hear? Oh yeah, like, that's a phrase I've said a few times. Or, so I think, like,
go wash your mouth.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it too.
Yeah. So it's like, that's pretty humbling. Like, any of those idiosyncrasies, you know, like, if I'm sarcastic, like, that will come around.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. That's just a good, like, check, right? But
right.
I think also it's like, you know, like, last night, I know the sun's the focus of this interview, but the moon last night, I got to give a shout out to the moon. There's a full moon last night, and we had borrowed my dad's truck. He lives out in Hiram, so, like, what, 25 miles, or 8 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, probably about 8 miles. So we went and dropped off the truck, and then I threw my bike and my son's bike in the back rifts, and we just decided to ride back. You know, and half of it was in the dark, but it was, like, just something that, like, I probably wouldn't have normally done, like, if it was just me, you know, but, like, having kids, maybe I try to look for those opportunities.
Yeah, that's, like, a cool one.
Hey, let's just do something that is different from the norm.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so last thing, this is maybe a little bit more deep and introspective. Do you have any negative fear or negative beliefs and fears about yourself?
Oh, man.
And would you be willing to share any of them and what you're doing to combat them?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have our doubts and insecurities. I mean,
not me, man. I'm freaking smooth sailing.
I don't know if I have like one specific thing I can think of, but it's just the constant balance, right? Like for me, it's like, okay, am I spending enough time with kids? Am I building my career in the way I want to build it? Am I spending enough time doing that? Am I cultivating my relationship with my wife? Am I, saving enough money for retirement? Or should I be like taking a vacation with my family? It's like, I second guess that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And I don't have the answer, but I definitely try and like ask people who are older and wiser, like, what I should be doing now, or I try to check in. It's like, hey, what did especially those decade milestones, like, what do you wish you knew before you were 30, or what do you wish you knew when you were 40, or how would you have spent time with kids? So, and again, there's no perfect answer, but I guess that's something for me.
Oh, but listening to real experience, that makes a difference.
Yeah, no, it does, and so yeah, I just I'm just, like I said, I'm naturally curious, and
yeah,
I'm a lifelong learner, and so like any hobby that someone has too, I'm always like, take me with you. I want to try that.
Yeah.
And
like your Baja race experience.
yeah, we could talk about that, but that was a year ago, and that was a Vegas to Reno off-road race through the desert, and that was just like one of those crazy things.
Man, super
like,
envious.
Hey, that opportunity came up.
Yeah.
And, took advantage of it. But yeah, as far as like what to do, I just try to talk to people or read books. But I definitely don't claim to have the answer on any of that. I'm still figuring stuff out for sure. So.
Well, you seem very teachable and humble in that way, so that's probably the best place to be.
Yeah. Just trying. But.
Awesome, man. Any last thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for doing this and the invite. I mean, like I said, it was super random, but this is so cool just to be out here and to break routine.
Yeah, right.
And, just to get to know you a little bit better and talk about some stuff.
Seriously, it's been super fun, Keegan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.